Well, hello there, dead and lovely people. We are Ben and Steve people. Say hello, Steve.
Hello, I am Steve People.
That sounded really natural.
Yes, we are not pod persons, that is for sure. We know human words, and we make human podcast for you. Listen.
Very believable.
Yeah.
How are you today, Steve?
I'm pretty great. Had a busy day. I was out in the sun an awful lot, doing a lot of physical stuff.
You were out there Hollywood in my ass, weren't you?
Yeah, I was Hollywooding it up.
Damn.
You know how it is.
All right,
Man.
so since you've become Hollywood Steve,
that's me.
How long did it take before?
W-O.
How long did it take before your beard stubble became grossly mismatched to your head hair?
It was almost immediate, actually. It was weird because it immediately started looking like it was painted on for some reason.
NWO Hogan's beard was always just like his stubble rig was always the most like stenciled on looking shit I've ever seen.
Well, the thing is, to turn, Hulk Hogan into a villain, you gotta do something to make people just be like, God, why does he do that? I fucking hate that.
Somewhere there was like a creative meeting where they were sitting around the table going like, nah, Hogan is one of the most beloved face wrestlers of all time. The kids love him. Everybody loves Hogan.
Bubba the Love Sponge's wife.
Yeah, well, apparently. What would be some cues, some visual cues that we could give to make him less likable? How about we make his stubble a different color than his hair? Like,
marketing research shows that kids hate that shit.
They tested this like among a panel of like young kids and stuff, and they were like, no, not that.
What happened to the real American?
What happened to the matching stubble? No.
Oh. Who's gonna fight for the rights of every man?
The real mystery is like, okay, head hair, blonde, stubble, black, chest hair, not present. What color were those pubes?
Oh man, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say gray. Just like, actually, like just pure white. You know what happened?
Snowy.
You know what I heard was that when Hulk Hogan was in high school, he was kind of a quiet kid, and he got into a car crash. And then when he came to school and he was changing in the locker room, all the kids saw that his pubes had turned from black into bright white.
He couldn't quite explain it.
No.
Crash Test Dummies, y'all. That's a Crash Test Dummies joke. What podcast have you listened to that featured a Crash Test Dummies joke?
You know what? Name one and hashtag it. I'm a fucking liar.
You're welcome, y'all. You're welcome. I've been doing well too. This morning I woke up to the very, very, very highly unfortunate news that apparently we lost Chris Cornell, one of the greatest male vocals ever recorded of all time. One of my real musical idols. Chris's impact on me musically is tremendous. I've always wanted to sing like that, never been able to, but I just can't believe it, man. I really, really, really can't believe it. The work he did with Soundgarden and Temple of the Dog and Audio Slave and his solo work, of course, too. It's undeniably incredible. And like I said, one of the best male vocals ever recorded of all time. Really, really bums me out, man. And I found out about halfway through the day that apparently it was it's looking like it was via means of a suicide.
Yeah.
Which is tremendously unfortunate. And I don't mean to get all super real on you guys. This is a pretty lighthearted kind of show, but it just kind of goes to show you, and this is what really hit me about it. I'm like, I look at Chris Cornell and I see a guy who is one of the most talented and respected and influential and successful musicians of my lifetime. I mean, the guy really he had it all. He was even like good looking and stuff, you know. And you know, if you have really legit, you know, psychological problems or depression, even all of those accomplishments still aren't enough, you know.
Yeah.
You can you can outwardly appear to be the most successful person in the world and still have demons inside that are really getting down on you. So it just really kind of blew my mind. I was like, you know, if that can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. It can literally happen to absolutely anybody. So I just want to really put it out there. I want to be the Fraser Crane and say, you know, if anybody out there is struggling with these kind of issues, there are so many resources online, completely for free, that you can tap into to help you deal with your troubles, deal with your problems. Check in on your loved ones. You know, if you even have an inkling of a suspicion that something might be going on with somebody, even though their outward life appears very happy, please talk to them. Just talk to them. Just ask. And yeah, sometimes that's all that it takes, is just reaching out. You know, you just never know.
Yeah. Dealing with another person's depression can be very hard. My wife suffers from a severe depression.
Sure.
But she is on the right medicines that make her comfortable and happy all of the time. But it can be very hard to see someone that you love go through that. So, you know, if you see someone going through it, do try to help. If you think it's going to help to tell them to just cheer up, maybe keep your comments to yourself. Realize that it's not a matter of just making a choice to feel better. And as Ben said, it doesn't matter what happens in your life, what sort of success you have. Depression is depression. It's a monster.
So yeah, definitely do try to seek help. I mean, some people need a pill to feel better. That's really all there is to it. Sometimes
sometimes that really is it.
Yeah, sometimes your body doesn't produce the right chemicals and it makes you feel bad. That's all there is to it. For some people just need a set of ears that can listen, that they can talk to.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. I mean,
sure.
I'm not going to say one or the other is what you need. You just need to try it and figure it out yourself.
Yep.
But this is not a music podcast. Jeez.
It's not? What? I don't understand. I can't imagine what else we would talk about.
Maybe we talk about one of our favorite scurry movies, a little flick by Dario Argento by the name of Suspiria.
Suspiria. Oh.
It's also my favorite Phil Collins song.
Yeah, everybody loves that one.
So, we didn't mention this, but as is kind of the typical routine for our show, we recorded a Suspiria episode several months ago, and
that is true. That is very true.
Just total novice podcaster mistakes. The audio on it was fucked. So here we are re-recording it for you guys. And so this is sort of a new update. The first time that I watched it was for the podcast.
Yeah, me too.
A couple months ago, and I was fucking floored. I love this movie. I watched it a couple times whenever we did the original podcast a couple months ago. I haven't watched it since. I've read a couple synopses and stuff just to sort of refresh my memory. So the first time that you watched it was for the show as well, right?
Yeah. I had always sort of avoided it because I had seen stills from it and thought, I don't know about this, like, because the blood is just like so
ketchup
pinkish, and it's so stylized. But watching it was just, it was a trip. It's like you learn so much about giallo just from watching this. Like, this could be seen in some ways as the quintessential giallo movie.
Absolutely.
Though people, I'm sure, would argue that Mario Bava's Black Sabbath or something else. But I mean, this is certainly arguable.
I would argue that some people can go fuck themselves.
I'd argue a bunch of people can go fuck themselves. But you know what? If you're all going to fuck yourselves, just get together. Have a good time.
Make a night of it.
Yeah.
So this movie, its primary subject is witches. Witches and witchcraft.
Witchcraft. You know, Ben, witches and we go back so far.
No doubt.
I think the movie that scared me the most as a child, and I don't know if any of this has survived. I think in episodes that we aren't able to post, I've said that as a child, some of my favorite movies were Scarface and Terminator and Commando.
Yeah.
And the first movie I saw in the theater was The Running Man, Arnold Schwarzenegger's The Running Man.
Well done.
The first movie that scared the shit out of me was The Wizard of Oz.
Well, it's fucking scary as shit.
Yeah, The Witch scared the shit out of me, and The Flying Monkeys. So witches, I have this like strong affinity for witch horror movies, or just witch movies in general. I feel like even witch comedies can be a bit scary. So, but there are some really great witch movies out there, Ben, and as far as I understand, we've compiled the top 5.
Well, I mean, maybe it is that we have, and maybe it is that we want to share it with you guys.
Yeah,
that's part of this week's episode. So we're going to throw you guys a couple of our favorite witch movies, which we have compiled. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and kick this bitch off. With a little movie, and by the way, we are excluding Suspiria from this list because, as you'll learn on this episode, we love that movie. So it's a little too obvious to put this in the list. So Suspiria, it is included on the list, but it's not. So I'm gonna kick this bitch off with
number 5
with a little movie by the title of Hocus Pocus.
Yeah. Now, see, this is what I'm talking about. A child's movie, supposed to be humorous, but it also scared a lot of kids.
It's fucking great. I watched it for the first time several years ago because that's one of my wife's like favorite movies. It's one of those that she always watched. Every Halloween she'd watch that movie. But for much of my life, in my conservative upbringing, I didn't celebrate Halloweens, so I was not aware of this movie. So we started watching it several years ago, and I was instantly like, oh yeah, this movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's great. Yeah, it is. It's just a really fun, it's one of those movies that is like, yeah, okay, maybe it's not like a damn legitimately incredible life-changing picture or whatever. It's just really entertaining. It's super, super, super festive and Halloweenish, and it just really puts me in the Halloween spirit. Much like how a lot of people, they really reach to get in that Christmas spirit. I'm always trying to find myself that Halloween spirit, and this is one of those movies that really gets me into it. It's just fun and easy watch. It's short, lots of bright colors and cool scenes and settings. Some funny stuff in there too. Very quotable as well. So Hocus Pocus, that's my jam.
Speaking of jams, the director of the movie that I selected for number 4 is James Wan. Oh wait, no, it's James Wan. The Conjuring.
That's such a great transition, dude.
Yeah. Listen, last week you were doing such good transitions. I was like, I gotta write some up. So
you took some notes, didn't you?
I did.
Clearly, it's paying off.
I between The Conjuring and Drag Me to Hell, I was going between those two for this slot, and I think looking back, Drag Me to Hell is great, still has great points, but is also a little bit more comical. And The Conjuring actually is I really like. I don't necessarily like the idea that's based on a true story. That's kind of lame to me, but I actually do really like the way that the tension builds throughout that movie, and it is one of the few movies in recent years to get an audible scream out of me. It is a jump scare, but it was very effective. It was not overplayed. That's oftentimes the problem with a jump scare, is that it's overplayed, it's going to be this big thing and then it's this small thing. Well, this the tension just built, and then suddenly this great sort of jump scare. Really
I've actually
enjoyed
never seen that one, man.
I highly recommend it. A lot of witchcraft going on there.
I like that.
And some seancing. That's always fun.
Oh, they're up there seancing your ass.
What's number 3, Ben?
Well, I would say that number 3, in my book, would be a little talkie picture based on a book, based on a true story by a little author named Just Kidding Rowling, J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
By
Just kidding. Uh-huh.
By the name of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Part 1 in the Harry Potter series, which I love dearly. It's legitimately not even remotely the best movie in the series.
No.
But I'm a real sucker for an origin story. And I think that movie really the most accurately captures the sense of wonderment and magic. You know what I mean? Because there's so much time in the first of the movie that's kind of down in the doldrums in the real world, and then whenever it actually gets to magical stuff and flying on brooms and yada yada, it just seems so downright magical. So that's why I would choose it. I've seen it a blue fucking billion times. Really, really, really enjoy it. Of course, that one actually follows the book pretty well. It's more of a visual companion to the book, I would say.
All right. Well, I mean, I can't disagree with you because
you better not.
As I said before we started, I also had a Harry Potter on my list. But we decided to scratch that, not do 2 Harry Potter movies, and so my next one, number 2, I would say, is Ken Russell's The Devils.
Oh my God! Yes.
This was recently recommended to me by you, and
it was recently recommended to me by Jesse from the Say You Love Satan podcast, my favorite horror movie podcast. Shout out! He told me about that flick, and he's like, "You should really watch that movie." And I sat down to watch it, and I was fucking stunned, man. Holy fucking shit! Why doesn't everybody know about this movie?
Yeah. Now, this is not a movie that actually contains witchcraft.
No, that's
but
the crazy thing.
Movie,
it doesn't.
Yeah, it is a movie that is absolutely about witch trials and the idea of what witchcraft is. I think much like our next installment, our number 1 installment that we both easily agreed on.
Oh yeah.
It shows, it gets into the culture and the fear that witchcraft really creates in people. The idea of witchcraft really creates in people, especially people who are in power or who are male. It's probably the best way to say it. Yeah.
It's Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
I really highly recommend you guys watch that movie. If you have Shudder, you can watch it on Shudder as of right now. Mm-hmm. It's mind blowing. It's extremely visually interesting. The soundtrack work is amazing. It's goddamn. It's just such a beautiful movie. Very controversial, apparently, at the time. It was banned in a lot of countries.
I would say
it was out of print for a long time.
There's still some pretty good reason to say it's controversial. It's extremely sacrilegious.
Extremely, dude. That scene of the dude coming down off the cross. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking awesome, though.
Yeah, that's a great choice, man. That's a great choice.
And so our consensus number 1 is
Practical Magic with Sandra Bullock.
Wait a second. Hold on. Something went wrong here. No.
The real winner is Moonlight.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's it.
Oh man. Okay, I'll be real though. Practical Magic ain't bad. Practical Magic ain't a bad watch.
Oh, hey, and Moonlight's good. So, I mean, it's not in no witchcraft involved at all. It may be behind maybe that's what's really driving the story, but I don't think so. Our actual number 1 is The Witch.
The Witch, which came out 2015.
2016, I believe. Yeah,
Man,
it's
that movie blew my hair back. I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, and future past Ben and Steve have already covered it. Well, I believe future Ben and Steve will probably have to cover it again. But
which is fine by me. I'll watch it and talk about it
absolutely.
as much as I can.
Not a problem. That movie is amazing. So great.
It's
and
definitely in my top 3 of the post-millennial horror movies, without a doubt.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say that it's reactive to put it at number 1, considering that it hasn't been around as long as a lot of other witch movies. Because seriously, watching it goes to a level that witch movies have never really gone to. So
that's true.
It's amazing.
Absolutely fucking awesome. So yeah, so those are our top picks right there. Maybe you guys have seen some of those. Maybe you haven't. Hopefully, if you haven't seen them, you'll go and check those out yourselves. Now, like I said, Suspiria would absolutely be on that list, but that's a movie that we're covering today, so it seems like that would be kind of a silly thing to put on there. As I said, I watched Suspiria for the first time a couple months ago. It was the second Dario Argento film that I've ever seen, behind Phenomena, which is our flagship episode that we've put up here. I loved Phenomena. I'd always heard about Dario Argento, but I'd never seen any of his flicks. But after I watched Phenomena, I was like, oh, I'm totally on board with this guy. So going into Suspiria, I was really excited. I kind of had a lot of hype about it because I'd had some friends that had seen it that had told me about how cool it was, and they're like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense and stuff, but it's really pretty, is what some of my friends had told me. So I went into it kind of optimistic. I really expected to enjoy it, and it did not let me down. I really, really love this movie, man. It's fucking incredible.
And I would argue that it does make sense. So
I know it really does. Here's the thing about this movie. It is plot-wise, it is extremely, extremely simple. It is basically about Susie Bannion, who is a American that goes to study at a European ballet school
in Freiburg.
Yeah, and discovers herself among a kind of a secret conspiracy of a coven of witches, and goes about uncovering it as her friends and stuff are getting murdered and stuff in the process. It's a really simple storyline, and something about it that I thought was really interesting. I was listening to another horror podcast called Scream Addicts, which is really good. Have you ever listened to that?
I haven't. It's
a really cool show. It's this guy that gets people who have worked in the movie industry or writers of other movies and stuff like this. He just has them on the show, and they talk about one of their favorite horror flicks. It's really good.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, but he had an episode about Suspiria with, who was it that was on there? I can't remember who his guest was, but they were talking about that flick, and they had some really cool observations about it. And one of the ones that I thought was really interesting was that the simplicity of the storyline. You know, girl goes to ballet school, discovers she's a coven of witches, and very many other elements of the story are very, very similar to almost like an old European folk tale, like a Grimm's Brothers tale, like a Grimm Brothers kind of story. Like it's so simple that it's very much like those old sort of tales.
Yeah, this is most directly inspired by Thomas de Quincey's Suspiria de Profundis. There's a particular section that Dario Argento was sort of building on by creating this, what ends up being a trilogy now after 2007, the Three Mothers trilogy.
Right.
His it starts with Suspiria, and then in 1980 he did Inferno, and then in 2007 he sort of finished the trilogy with The Mother of Tears.
Have you seen Inferno?
I have not seen Inferno, no.
It is so sick. We got to cover it on the show sometime. It's so rad. You'll love it.
I'm 100% with it, because Argento, he's got me. I mean, I'm on the hook. When I see his weird choices and the strange things he does, I really enjoy it so much. But this is also strongly influenced by M.C. Escher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there are two different Escher inspired wallpapers. One is in the first apartment building that we see.
Yeah, it's got that crazy geometric kind of pattern on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, the tessellations with the figure ground ambiguity.
Whoa.
This is a real important theme throughout this movie, is this ambiguity of figure and ground, and the primary one is Susie Bannion and her roommate, well, not roommate, but her room neighbor, I guess, who actually seems to be our protagonist for the longest time.
Yeah.
Susie is asleep for most of this movie, but actually what we're seeing is, we're actually seeing just there's this ambiguity between, like, because they come together to sort of form the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of ambiguity between, like, who is the heroine and who is who is the friend who dies early. I mean, because she is the friend who, the French girl is the friend who dies early, but she's the one who puts all the work in. Like,
yeah, it's true.
She does all the hero stuff, and then Susie gets the glory, I guess, at the end.
She's the one who spikes the ball.
Yeah. And another major influence on this movie is the score of this movie, which was actually created before the film was shot.
I remember reading that. Yeah, that Goblin had composed the score, and that Argento kind of shot the movie around it, which, man, it's such a cool move. This movie is such a feast for the eyes and the ears. Like, it is visually so huge, and it is soundtrack wise so huge that it's almost overwhelming. Some of those moments in the movie where you have such a profoundly strong, just fascinating visual, and then you've got Goblin's score backing it up, it's almost overwhelming just to be taking in so much at the same time. It's incredible.
That's exactly what they go for too. The opening of this, when she's walking through the airport, she's arrived at Freiburg, and as she's walking through the airport, it's just sort of ambient sounds, people walking, etc., like the announcer over the PA. But then as the doors open to this world she's about to step into, the Goblin soundtrack just like blasts, and there's wind blowing, and it's crazy. So it's like she's going from this tame world into this wild, unbridled world, which it's again, to kind of go back to the folktale kind of element. It's almost like she is. It's like, you're not in America anymore. Welcome to Europe. Like, welcome to how fucking weird this is gonna get. I love it. We're gonna put mayonnaise on shit that you don't put mayonnaise on.
Oh, no, not that.
Yeah, so that actually is a major element throughout this movie, is that that soundtrack, that score, it is like dissonant, and like there's so much going on in it, like so many layers and like growls and like really creepy keyboards, and like it comes on at the moments when I guess there's a lot of like tension building. Mm-hmm. It really makes that tension work.
It's like a character in the movie itself. It's the kind of thing where you wonder if the characters in the movie are hearing it as you're hearing it too. Did you notice
that would be awesome
in that opening scene too, where she arrives at the airport, like whenever those doors open, the wind like blows her back, and then like that first taxi that she tries to hail passes her by. It's almost like fate is trying to keep her from being there. It's like, go back,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's raining, and she asks the taxi driver how long it's been raining, and he says 30 minutes, which you have to assume was about the time she landed. This was back in the day before there was a whole ordeal getting on and off of planes. Like, so she probably landed and it started raining. The wind started blowing. Yeah, it's almost as if everything's trying to keep her away. And she gets to the dance academy and she's turned away. Like, she sees a girl running out and the girl is obviously distressed, but the girl just runs away. And then she goes to the door and she's like, "Hey, it's me, Susie." And what is the French girl's name? I feel terrible. I cannot remember her name.
Yeah, same here. We need to get fucking Bill Gates Jr. on there.
Sarah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Listen, he's standing right next to me at all times now because I got tired of having to find him. This Bill Gates Jr.
Now, has he delivered you a fresh whiskey into your hands?
You know what, Bill Gates Jr.? Get on it.
Jeez, man. Like, what do we even pay these fucking interns for?
You're going to call your father? I'll call your father. How about that? All right. Yeah. Now, clean this shit up before you get back. Yeah, he just shit his pants.
Does he even have himself a fresh, fantastic Sam's cut going on right now, or is it looking ragged?
It's a good bowl cut. It looks good.
At least he's got that. At least he's using the fucking money that we pay him for something. Jesus.
Yeah. So Susie gets to the door. She says, "I'm Susie Banyan. I'm supposed to get you here." And Sarah's voice, I mean, we don't learn this until later, but it's Sarah's voice, and she says, "Go away." So, yeah, you're right. Like, everything is saying, like, get the hell out of here, Susie.
It's go back. It's like, do not come here. Go back. American woman.
But then we cut to, from her, she gets back in the taxi and basically drives off, and we see the girl who was running out of the dance academy. She's running through the woods. She's obviously running from something. And she gets to an apartment building, goes in, and apparently her friend lives there. Now, this apartment building is insane looking.
Now that you mention it, it is completely an MC Escher designed apartment. It's fucking crazy. And
it's
already,
crazy.
Like, man, already in the movie, you've just been hit by this barrage of bizarre, unnatural lighting. Like, even while she was riding in the taxi, it was like, let's have hot pink light in the car. It's like, in what world is that normal?
We get a lot of hot pink, a lot of deep red, green, blue. But yeah, it's always unnatural sort of light, except for the day shots.
A cool thing about the lighting in the movie too that I learned recently is that whereas typically whenever you see that sort of lighting, it's just basically like a gel placed in front of a regular, stage light. Like there's like a clear colored piece of plastic in front of it to give it that sort of light. Apparently they were very insistent on not doing it that way with this movie, and a lot of the lighting in this flick was they would basically point a colored light at a mirror and then bounce the mirrored light back onto the actors and actresses, which had a completely different effect than just having like a gel in front of the light. It's so wild, man. The lighting in this movie is a character unto itself.
So the girl who was running from the dance hall, she gets to her friend's apartment, and her friend's like, "Yeah, you can stay here on my couch." And of course, I mean, if you haven't seen an Argento movie, you should know that all the actors just speak whatever language they speak, and they just dub it into whatever language it's being shown in.
So that's a little disorienting, maybe if at first watch, but I'm just on board with it now. I don't care. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. And the girl who's scared, she goes into the bathroom and the windows blow open, and so she's very afraid something is chasing her, and so the friend closes the windows, and she's like, "You're too jumpy" or whatever, and she's just chilling in the bathroom like you do. They call it a bathroom. I didn't see a toilet or a shower, but anyway.
It's European, man. They don't have that stuff.
Anyway, she eventually goes to the window and she sees these green eyes, this glowing green eyes. And cool. This arm reaches in through the one window that is covered in white hair and has these long black fingernails.
Yeah.
And it just grabs her by the back of the head and pumpkin heads her through the window.
She gets pumpkin headed hard. I'm pretty sure that the arm was played by George the Animal Steel.
Yes, because it was so hairy.
Also, there were remnants of a turnbuckle in between his teeth.
That might explain the green eyes too.
Yeah, she gets her head smashed through the window. This kill scene is so just horrifically gruesome, and it comes in so hot right at the first of the movie because she gets dragged off, and oh my god, dude, like she gets stabbed in the heart.
Yeah, there's a very like close up, like open rib cage, heart exposed, stab to the heart. That is brutal, just absolutely brutal. The killer puts a noose around her neck, and she falls through this very brightly colored stained glass window.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and
it looks like a kaleidoscope when she falls through. Like when the glass is falling, it looks like, and all the bright colors and sharp angles, it looks just like you're looking through a kaleidoscope. And
the girl that she came to see was, trying to save her, etc. She's now down in the lobby below this huge window, and so the girl who was being chased is now, she's been stabbed several times. She is hung, blood dripping everywhere, and the glass has impaled the friend in several different places and killed her. Really great special effects, because there's one of the pieces of glass is going like diagonally through her face.
Yeah,
it looks great.
It
really
does,
enjoyed
man.
it.
That's the classic Argento move, the killer that's sort of hidden in darkness and all you see is like hands or eyes, or that's just kind of his bag, is to sort of have this unseen killer going on. You'll see that in so many of his movies.
Yeah, it's there's always the element of mystery in giallo films. The idea that there's something to be solved, and we saw that in Phenomena. We see that here too, and there's often, as we saw in Phenomena and in this, it's usually the protagonist is an American female,
a brunette American female who's very pretty.
Yeah. So, and, hey, way to go. I enjoy pretty brunette females. So.
I like things that are nice.
This is sort of our like, opening to what all's going on. Now we get the scenes where it sort of sets up what's going on at this school. Yeah. Some of it's kind of just exposition, but we meet the... I guess the head mistress. She is an older ballerina. She just I didn't really look up this actress's IMDb, but she did have a lot of credits. So she was an actress who'd been around for a long time. And then there's also the Frau, who has the biggest, shiniest teeth I've ever seen in my life.
She got them great big old horse teeth.
And she is very German.
I'd like to see her and Sarah Jessica Parker have a bite off and just bite to the death.
I heard that's how Sarah Jessica Parker got her start in movies.
And then the referee is Gary Busey.
Oh no, Gary Busey's teeth. Jesus, run everybody.
Yeah, she kind of gets to know the people at the school, and she gets kind of set up with a roommate and stuff. She doesn't want a roommate, but and there's a lot of kind of talk about wealth, about like money, and like, oh, I'll sell you these ballet shoes and all this stuff.
Yeah,
sort of this theme of like monetary greed that's sort of set up.
Yeah, and that is that is associated with witches. I remember the first time we recorded, we were pretty confused by that. I looked it up. Greed is sometimes associated with witches. So that's what they're getting at there. And she's come to stay at the school, but they actually don't have her room ready. So she goes to stay with this girl who she really, these girls in this school really give the girls in Phenomena a run for their money in really shitty insults.
We worship you. We worship you.
Yeah, she says to Sarah and Susie, you know, people with S names are snakes.
Yeah.
Okay. What? All right.
That's
you got
cold as ice.
Yeah. Whoo. But yeah, she goes to stay with this girl, and the girl is talking about money a whole lot. And Susie is she's presented as though she might not understand what's going on. But if we pay attention, she doesn't want, because the next day she goes to the school and they say, hey, we have your room ready for you. And she's like, no, I actually want to stay with this girl. Like, she doesn't seem to have a problem with how weird this chick is about money and all this other stuff. So
yeah, she's kind of rolling with some punches.
Yeah, it makes me think that if right here Susie had stayed with that girl, would she have just ended up as a part of the Coven of Witches?
I don't know. I don't know, man. That's good. That's a good point.
Would she have just been like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Like, I'm cool with that. Like,
and we meet the piano instructor there too, who's this blind guy. Well, he's not the piano instructor. He plays piano while the girls do their ballet dancing and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's not too soon after that. Well, of course, he has like a seeing eye dog and stuff. And it's not too long after that he gets into a big fight with. Is it the Frau that he gets into a big argument with?
Yeah, his dog bit the Victorian ghost child that is the. I think he's like a nephew of the headmistress.
Why does he exist? Does he exist? I don't know.
I don't know. He's so creepy. Anyway, the dog bites that kid, and so the Frau goes fucking Hitler style on the blind guy, and she throws his shit like away from him.
Oh,
which seems like that's not too cruel, but he's blind. He didn't hear where it landed.
Bless him.
Like, she's being cruel, and she's mad at him for having a seeing eye dog. Like, she's terrible.
She a bitch.
She is not a nice person.
And I love that, like, he goes and hangs out in the greatest German bar of all time.
Yeah, they're doing this weird, like, fake slap play fight dance that then turns into the two men, like, slow dancing together. Which okay, like,
Germany
great,
is a silly place.
Yes, it is. So the blind guy, he leaves. I'm sorry to keep calling him the blind guy. I just sincerely, I think it was James was his name, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
He leaves the bar. It's sort of late, and he's walking with his dog. And if you notice, as he's walking, the people he walks by are all, like, looking at him.
Oh, really?
Which I thought was interesting. I didn't know if that was just like, oh, he's blind, let's stare at him, or if it's, like, some indication, because...
a conspiracy afoot.
Yeah, he walks into this huge courtyard, and we keep getting different perspectives from different buildings that
It's
make
so
it seem
cool.
like, okay, there are eyes all on him.
Right.
And
I love those shots. That square that he's in and all the buildings around him just seem to absolutely dwarf him. Like, he looks like an ant standing in the middle of that square.
Yeah, and the tension builds for a while with this.
Because he's standing there just exposed. Just him and the dog, like, exposed in the middle of the square. There's nobody around. And you're like, oh, he's a blind guy. Like, some guy's going to, like, sneak up on him and kill him or something like that. You're just kind of waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah. What happens, though, is if you pay attention to the dog is very clearly watching something. Like, if you follow his eyes, like, he's very clearly watching something, and then suddenly lunges at the throat of James, the blind pianist, and off with his head, basically. Like, he's dead.
Kills the fuck out of him. It's so brutal, man. That's an awesome kill. It's like not what you're expecting.
No.
Very, very, very cool to see. Graphic. It's awesome.
Yeah, and also what happened at school, basically, the day before that, is that Susie was feeling ill because she walked down a hallway where Victorian Ghost Boy and Russian Cook Lady were sitting, and Russian Cook Lady put some sort of, like, voodoo on her.
There's like that weird like glint or something like that, and then she got a case of the vapors.
Yeah. So she's feeling sick, and so she faints, and she's bleeding from her nose, and then it cuts to her in the bed, and I love this. This is amazing to me that this movie has 3 instances of the most insane ideas of expertise I've ever heard of, and 2 of them are in this scene.
Yeah.
The first one is the Frau is giving Susie water, and she says, any fluids you intake instantly turn into blood.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Not true at all. And then the doctor prescribes her a certain diet and includes red wine, and he says red wine will help build your blood. Guys, liquid and red aren't what make blood.
Sure it is. What are you talking about?
Though this movie does seem to posit that.
If that's the case, they should have prescribed her Hawaiian Punch.
Listen, Ben, I'm just going to go ahead and I think I'm going to fire Bill Gates Jr. because he finally handed me this note that said the blind guy's name is Daniel.
Daniel, whatever. Fuck you, Bill
Take
Gates
your
Jr.
time, Bill Gates Jr. Jesus.
I've always really wondered why the Hawaiian Punch guy was so pale. I think if he was in Hawaii, he'd be getting him a sunburn.
Well, he obviously was ginger because he had that red hair. Maybe he stayed out of the sun completely. He moved to Hawaii, but just stays in his basement.
I thought he looked like Dr. Moreau or something.
He did look like Dr. Moreau or something.
Maybe the fruit punch is one of his chimera hybrid amalgamations of in a liquid form.
Yeah. So the first night that she's like on that diet, she sits down to comb her hair, and maggots start falling from the ceiling. I
forgot about that. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. This is, just like Phenomena, tons of maggots. Yeah. So many maggots in this scene. It's
Argento's
really gross.
like, we needed the most maggots.
Yeah.
Time to make the pizza.
That's what he says before he starts making a movie.
Yeah.
Time to make it a pizza. He goes home and he's like, "Oh, Mama, I made it a pizza." And she's like, "You fool. This is not a pizza.
This is a movie."
So
Frau inspects, and it's like, because all this, I guess, food that they had been storing.
Yeah, a bunch of food spoiled. Yeah.
Why would you do that?
And there's like some exposition given that they got the food like 2 days ago from an unreliable supplier, and it's like, come on, guys, we don't need all this. Just the food spoiled. That's fine.
Yeah. And they decide that the girls can't sleep in the dorms. They need to sleep.
Yeah, because of all the maggots.
Yeah, they need to sleep in one of the big downstairs auditoriums or something.
Yeah, so they're like sleeping in like a dance room or something, and suddenly a shadow behind the curtains appears and then lays down in a bed behind the curtains and starts snoring.
She got that apnea.
She got that apnea, yo.
She need her that CPAP.
Hashtag I can't breathe when I sleep. Oh no.
Oh no.
Anyway, so she snores, and Sarah tells Susie the story that basically one night, earlier in the semester or something, she was alone and the directress showed up. The directress of this
Academy.
School showed up, and she slept in a bed near her, and she snored just like that. So she says, so the teachers are lying to us and stuff, and the directress they said was not there is actually there.
That shot's cool too. Everything is like bizarrely red. Like everything is so fucking red, and the silhouettes are all black and stuff. It's really neat.
The silhouettes of the directress are really interesting, especially later when we see them.
Sure.
They kind of like shimmer and move and stuff. It's really cool. But so this starts Sarah telling Susie all about the conspiracy that she and her former roommate had discovered, that basically the dance academy is a coven of witches.
Witches.
Yeah. And she enlists Susie's help, sort of. Basically, she tells Susie about it, and then every time she wants to do something about it, Susie is drugged because they are drugging her wine.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too. Like, I wonder why they're targeting specifically her. I mean, what is it about her that they are after to try to suppress or stop, as opposed to the other girls that are at the academy?
Yeah, that is weird. It's a very strange... Like, I mean, it's possible that... Because she does say when she first meets the headmistress that she has an aunt who was a ballerina or something, and basically the headmistress says something about her having a lot of money. So maybe they want to keep her around to keep money coming into the school, so they're just going to keep her drugged.
And maybe it's the connection, too, where, like, if they can make her into one of the witches, you know, with her being an American, maybe they see that as a way that they can expand their empire and make it over to the States, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean, they obviously have some plan for her, but we never find out what it is. And at this point, I mean, she really is... Gosh, it's hard to put into words. She doesn't do anything. Basically... Sarah conveys all of the information and all of the stuff that she has learned to Susie, and then Sarah is killed. Yep. Like,
she gets murdered the fuck up.
If you pay attention, the geometry of the kills don't make sense, because like you'll see them running and then suddenly they're like somewhere else, but like going a different direction.
It's almost
like especially
it's
with
very dreamy, isn't it?
Yes, it reminds me so much of Nightmare on Elm Street. Though I would guess Nightmare on Elm Street is playing off of this, but especially when Sarah is being chased, it's like insane, like how she ends up different places. It's almost like the halls and doors and things don't connect in a way that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Which is in relation to MC Escher's relativity, or crazy stairs, as people often know it.
That's more fun to say. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But there's also the problem with Sarah's death, that she lands in this big pile of metal rings that are supposed to, I think, represent barbed wire, but
it kind of looks like razor. It kind of looks like razor wire, like
yeah, maybe razor wire. Yeah.
A room where they store all of their razor wire in a huge pit, because a ballet studio needs to have an ample supply of razor wire available at all times to keep the ballerinas in check.
Listen, if you got a ballerina who's getting too uppity, just whip out the razor wire. They all know what it means.
They respond well to that. It's a brutal kill, man. It's awesome.
It really is. She gets she's struggling for a long time in this razor wire, and then she gets her throat sliced by a hand that, if you pay attention, it's a black gloved woman's hand.
Classic, it's classic Argento.
It's very definitely a woman's hand, which means that the kill that happened in the beginning, the kill of Daniel, the piano player, and this kill have all been performed by 3 different entities.
Right.
But as we'll discover, they're all being used by the same power, and that is the power of the directress of the dance academy, who is Helena Marcos.
Helena Marcos, the Black Queen.
Yes, she. We get a lot of her backstory when Susie goes to see Sarah's professor friend at what looks like a boring academic mixer.
The Institute. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a little scene out there where they're sort of talking. She's talking to that guy. He's like, "Oh, I'd like to introduce you to this guy who wrote a book about witchcraft." And they just kind of stand there and talk a little bit. And that's where he gives you a little bit of the background that, the witch's primary obsession is wealth and expanding their power and yada yada. And he talks a little bit about Helena Marcos. She was the Black Queen, head of a coven and stuff. And she founded the Dance Academy, right?
Yeah.
And is that when, like, Susie's in the school and, like, everybody leaves? Like, basically everybody goes on a trip that she wasn't really invited on or something, right?
Yeah, everybody's kind of gone, and she's in her room, and then there's the bat scene, which we can't ignore.
Okay, why is this in the movie? Okay, so there are very few things about this movie that I would change, but why? Why this? Like, there's a scene where she's in a room, and, like, a bat flies in, and she is basically like, well, fuck this bat, and she throws a towel over it and, like, stomps it and kills it.
Yeah, and the bat, it doesn't look good. It looks fine, but when it's flying, it just doesn't look natural. It looks very fake.
It's a good old bat on a string routine. That's the one. And it's like, maybe if they had shown us or given us some kind of indication that, I don't know, that, a witch, like a vampire or something, can, like, turn into a bat and shapeshift and stuff. Maybe if we had the impression that, she was thinking that was something that was pursuing her, and she's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't know why this is in the movie.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just they had a bat, and they were like,
fuck
let's use
this
it.
Bat.
I mean,
fuck this bat.
But yeah, she finds the last note that Sarah had left of this whole conspiracy, and that note was she had counted the steps that she heard the teachers taking late at night, and so Susie can follow those steps and find out what it is they're doing.
Right, yeah. It's like count how many steps they're walking and what direction and stuff, and you'll find whatever secret office or whatever it is that these people are going to.
And she gets into the headmistress's office, and that's where there is a very definite homage to M.C. Escher's Relativity on the wall.
Yeah.
But there are also these irises painted, and that's when Susie can remember more clearly what it was she heard the girl who ran away from the building on the first night saying.
Right.
And that was a secret door behind the blue iris or something like that.
Right. So she's thought bubble. And she looks and she finds basically kind of like a secret switch behind one of the irises that opens up a doorway, right?
Yeah, and she walks into a hall that's just covered in words of various languages.
I thought that was really fascinating. There's very obviously some of the text that is like a Hebrew. There's some of it that almost is hieroglyphic looking. There's like Greek looking lettering and stuff. It's very interesting to see. It's just a big mishmash of different cultures.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And she hears they're having a meeting, and the headmistress is sitting on like this sort of throne, and she's saying that we have to kill the American. And
if you watch, she's also taking like a black communion, basically.
Yeah, they're doing like the black sacrament. Yeah. So she's hiding, and I guess the little Victorian ghost boy hears her, and he tells.
I think that's Donald Trump Jr. Jr., isn't it?
Yeah, it's Donald Trump Jr. Jr. Yeah. Donald Trump the Third would be how most people would say it, but I think they go with Jr. Jr.
It has a better ring to it.
It does. He sends Petros, I believe is the guy's name.
Who's kind of the
is a Romanian
manservant guy.
Yeah, he's a real big guy. And he like goes to look for her, and she ducks into a room, and in that room is Sarah, who has been mutilated and has needles sticking through her eyes.
That's fucking fucked up, man.
Yeah. It's a real cool effect. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Um,
And she's
and
like
then-
got slashes all over her body and face, and she's just real fucked up, real good and fucked up.
Yeah, that razor wire really did a number on her, and so
ECW, ECW.
yeah, she does look a little like Cactus Jack. I should mention. So the servant guy comes in and she ducks into another door, and in this room she hears the snoring of the directress, and you
She's
can see there's
sleeping.
like a bed canopy, and her shadow behind there is like shimmery. I'm not sure how they did it, if they just maybe had a fan sort of blowing the curtain or something.
It's
But it
really
sort of
cool.
shimmers a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
She knocks over that like peacock statue.
yeah, she picked I guess the peacock statue was made of knives.
It was
'Cause
fully
she
armed.
she picks up one of the
Quills.
feathers, the
Yeah.
plumage, or quills, and she goes over towards the bed, and she opens the bed, and there's nothing there, but we then hear Helena Marcos saying, "You want to kill Helena Marcos?" And she basically is like taunting her, and then she
I think it's pretty gangster that she
she's-
talks about herself in the third person.
yeah, she's about as gangster as Bob Dole. So Helena Marcos, she says something about the living dead, and then we hear this growling coming from the door, and these fingers like come through the side of the door, and then it opens, and it's Sarah with the the needles through the eyes, and she has a knife.
It's like zombie
and she's
Sarah.
she's zombie Sarah, and she's making these like ungodly noises, and she starts to go for her.
You do not
And
expect
then-
to see that in the movie. That's for fucking sure. Whenever that happened, I
No.
was like, "What the fuck is going
Yeah.
on here?"
Yeah, just like with Phenomena, just like it's this like we're 8 minutes from the end of the movie at
Yeah.
this point,
When shit turns
and,
loose,
and
it
suddenly
turns loose.
this happens.
Yeah.
And so Susie, I guess, instead of fighting off the zombie, wisely turns to the bed to try to kill Helena Marcos, and she sees this sort of shimmery outline
Yeah.
and just stabs at it. And when she stabs it, Sarah sort of shimmers out of existence, and then Helena Marcos comes into existence, and she is like old. Like her skin is like the makeup they put on her is just like ancient, like a mummy almost. Insane looking.
She needs some lotion. She needs some coconut oil. A royal
She
jelly,
needs to
perhaps.
get some of that cocoa butter.
my cocoa butter. Here's some cool trivia. So, apparently, Dario Argento found, in order to play the grizzled hag Helena Marcos, he found a 90-year-old prostitute on the streets, and
Wow.
that is Helena Marcos. It's a 90-year-old prostitute.
Helena Marcos is, it seems to me, based off of, there is a woman by the name of Enriqueta Martí, who was around the turn of the 20th century. She was I guess you would say a procurer of children for rich people to fuck.
Whoa.
In Barcelona, Spain. She also was a witch in the legitimate sense, not that she could perform actual, magic, but that she made potions using the fat of dead children that she had killed
Shit.
when they became liabilities, and she sold those potions again to rich people.
She
who
definitely
did-
was in Slytherin.
Yeah, listen, there's not a wizard that went bad that wasn't from Slytherin. Okay, so
And she stabs her with the peacock quill, and she kind of screams and sort of vanishes. And
writhes, yeah, and then the house starts to shake violently.
catches on fire. There's fire coming from somebody.
Yeah.
She left the stove on.
Yeah, as Susie goes running out and she sees like all the witches in the room they were in before, but now they're choking and some of them are bleeding and stuff through their nose and mouth. And she walks out, and seriously, she cool guys this. Like, she just walks away from a burning, exploding building, doesn't look back. She's smiling. Like, there's this real great shot of her just like, she's like, yeah, I did it. And then it cuts to a picture of the sign on the outside of the building, and you just hear screams coming from inside. And the credits roll, and the screams keep going.
Yeah, dude. It would have been a perfect time for the screen to go black and white and for like the Thug Life icon to come down.
Yeah.
It would have been perfect.
Now, here's my one major theory, because my biggest quibble with this movie is that the hero's journey is so odd.
Yeah.
Here is, I think, what makes this make sense. Other than just thinking of the figure ground relationship with her and Sarah, it may be, in some ways, a giallo parody. In some ways, Argento may be saying, we have these American girls show up in these very complicated situations. They find an easy answer and then they just leave. But like, there's horror and wreckage left behind.
Yeah.
So like, it could be, in some ways, he's doing a bit of parody of giallo itself. Though, I mean, giallo in its essence has a lot of parody already built in. So there's a lot going on here. I don't think it's an accident that Susie is basically drugged most of this movie. Yeah, I think that it's a conscious decision that's meant to make a really interesting point about giallo, but also that plays off of that Escher figure ground relationship. So,
do you think the fact that she's drugged is to make it make more sense to us that the world that Susie inhabits looks so fucked up and surreal and vivid?
Huh.
Well,
I mean, yeah, I guess that would make sense if we then think that maybe that was also happening to the roommate from the beginning who's running from the building. Because then she goes into that apartment building that is just
crazy
insane.
As fuck, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe the drugs weren't just to keep them docile, but also caused hallucinations.
Yeah, like warp their reality and stuff.
Yeah.
It's it is a really cool fucking movie, man.
Yeah, I really enjoy this. Artistically, and I think the story does come together in the end too.
Yeah, and like I said, it is such a simplistic story. It is really one of those that, I mean, like I said, you can sum it up by just being like, well, you know, American student comes to a ballerina academy in Europe, discovers she's among a coven of witches, defeats the witch, and leaves. Like that's really it.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it.
Yeah, that's really it. And that actually is Susie's story, by the way. There's nothing that happens in between. That is the story for her. So.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, that to me is like so many of those old European folk tales and stuff like that too. A lot of those old morality tales are so simple. You know, even something like a Snow White or something like that is a very simple story. So to me, this is just like such a wonderfully European movie, you know, and it's such a wonderfully European story too. It's beautiful. It's ridiculously fucking beautiful, man. I can't overstate that enough. Anybody interested in the visual element of filmmaking and cinematography and just art in general has to watch this movie. It's so gorgeous. Yeah. It's kind of, it's really, really just breathtaking. The colors of the lighting, to me, are just so fascinating. To me, like, this is one of those movies that anytime I see something that is, like, kind of maybe bordering on surreal or is just abstract and weird. What really fascinates me is you're seeing the direct result of the choices that the artist, or the director in this case, made in order to make that. Even in that taxi cab scene that they shot at the very first of the movie, it just could have been her in a taxi cab. But he's like, oh wait, hang on. Let's put this pink light on here, this hot pink crazy light. Okay. And then like there's that scene where right before her roommate goes and gets killed, the power goes off, but the way that he conveys the power being off is to turn the whole screen green. All the lighting is green and black. And then like the camera, there's that scene where she's getting out of the room and the camera like floats up to the ceiling. It makes...
Yeah, and there's a shot through
the light bulb or
the
something.
Light bulb.
It's so weird, man. And that's what really fascinates me, is because I like to picture myself, there on that day of shooting in the director's chair. I probably would have just been like, okay, we'll just set the camera down right here so we can see her go through the door. But for some reason, there is a voice in Argento's head going, you know what would make more sense? Have the camera float up to the ceiling, looking through the light bulb, and everything's green. That makes sense to me today.
Now, there is a line we have to address, and a fact about Dario Argento we have to get out there. There is the line where the headmistress says to Susie when she first gets there that she can stay with this other girl for 50 of her American dollars.
Yeah.
And this is just one of the many proofs that Dario Argento is an alien.
Instead of paying in space bucks, you mean?
Yeah. Well, he realized, he was like, don't say clip-clops here. If I say clip-clops, they'll catch on I'm an alien. What do I say here that everyone would say?
American dollars.
Your American dollars.
That's what is so cool about this movie to me. And it's one of those things that I would understand if other people didn't like about it, but so many of the lines of dialogue in this movie and the way the characters talk to each other and stuff, it's not even remotely how humans act. It reminds me of if an alien just got here and looked around for a day or two and was like, I guess this is how humans interact. I'll make a movie that shows them interacting this way. I guess this is natural. But missing the point entirely. And maybe part of that is because the actors, like you said earlier, are just talking in their native tongue, and then they're just dubbed for us in English.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it too. I'm not really sure if there's a lot of things that get lost in translation, but I love in those old Argento flicks how the dialogue doesn't really sound like how humans talk, but it's consistent, so I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to explain, but
yeah, I
love it.
No, I think the simplest way to get across your point is to just quote this one line that the professor says to his friend that he introduces Susie to, Milius. He says, "Can you tell her something about the mysterious?"
That's totally that's a natural line right there.
That's like it's not the most odd line I've heard in an Argento movie, but it is the perfect encapsulation of how the lines can be so strange.
Yeah.
Like, it seems right, but it was just translated by somebody who maybe wasn't even a translator. They just happened to speak Italian and English.
Yeah. It's like it's close, but it's not.
Yeah. They were like, well, I have this dictionary. So yeah, as far as likes or dislikes with this movie, I mean, we've talked about a lot of the likes. Artistically, it's gorgeous. I love the effects. I actually love, like, the more you get into it and the more like crazy the color schemes get, the more I like the pink blood.
Yeah, it looks so wrong, but
yeah,
given the atmosphere and tonality of this movie, it seems to make sense that it would look that way. I hadn't really thought about the Escher connections, but now that you're pointing out a lot of them, I mean, most obviously, like in the skylight and stuff like that she falls through at the first of the movie. it is really really clear, and even in like the shoot, what is her roommate? The one that says like S's or snake names or whatever. I can't remember.
Oh
her
yeah,
name.
I don't remember that girl's name.
In in their apartment that you're in for just like one scene, even the wallpaper of that room is this crazy black and white, like geometric.
Yes.
Madness.
Insane.
And I remember even the first time that we watched it, in a lot of my notes I had stuff like, you know, crazy geometric wallpaper and stuff like that written down so many times in my notes. Now that you're mentioning it, yeah, it is very 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 Escher in a lot of ways. What would you say are some dislikes about the movie?
They're the same dislikes you would have with any giallo movie. The dubbing, I mean, you get used to it. At first, though, it can be really irritating. I mean, there's a steep learning curve with giallo movies.
Yeah,
you get thrown into. Yeah, you get thrown into melodrama and over the top effects and blood and lines that don't make a whole lot of sense. But like once you get to that point where it all sort of that drops away because the artistic and creative merits start to shine through, that sort of goes away. At that point, I would say the bat scene could have been eliminated, but everything else is pretty great.
I would agree with you on a lot of that, man. To me, you know, the real strengths of this movie are definitely the audio and visual elements of it. The storyline and the dialogue and stuff are so simple and so rudimentary, but I don't know, there's sort of this idea in mixing a record, like in mixing an album, right? That not everything can be big in terms of the audio quality, in terms of how they sound. Like, you can't have a guitar that sounds gigantic and have drums that sound huge and have a bass guitar that sounds huge and have a vocal that sounds huge. Like, if you listen to like a Led Zeppelin record, like some of those old Led Zeppelin albums, the drums sound fucking colossal. The bass guitar sounds colossal. Jimmy Page's guitars actually sound really tiny, and also a lot of the vocal sounds are very thin as well. Because the idea is that if everything is big, nothing sounds big. You can't notice how big something is if everything sounds big. And
I don't know if you are you not aware of Death Clock?
Maximum hugeness all over that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I think that this movie kind of takes that same principle where it's like, if the audio was as huge as it is, and the visual was as huge as it is, and the storyline was also on a grand, massive scale, it would almost be this kind of sensory overload where you couldn't really appreciate what your eyes and your ears are going through while you watch this movie. So by keeping some of the story and dialogue kind of small, it helps you appreciate the bigness of what your eyes and ears are taking in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can understand people not liking how simple the plot is, I guess. But I don't know. I was raised on all those old European folk tales, so to me it's totally fine, you know?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is really accurate about this movie, because what Argento chose to like heighten is, first, he took the score that is just like
God, it's
at
so
11.
Good. To me, that's one of those ones. As soon as I hear those magical chimey arpeggios, it's like I instantly am transported to this movie. That score really, really sets the tone so well, man.
And he puts color, like he chose to go with the score and color as like the lead. Like, this is what's gonna be like the thing that drives this movie. Yeah, and it works.
It does. Like, dude, I can't imagine how hard it is to make a movie that works based on sound and color.
I can't either. Like I can't. I'm sure if I really sat down and thought about it, I could come up with another movie that does that. But I not off the top of my head.
Maybe that's the reason why you had the blind piano player get killed in the movie, is because really Argento is like, fuck blind people. You can't see my movie.
You can hear the sounds, but you can't see it.
Fuck you.
How dare you not see? Yeah. You know what? That would be something I would, I found out Argento had an anti-blind rant, I would not be surprised.
Hashtag fuck the blind.
Oh, no. Come on.
No, that's his hashtag. That's not mine. That's his.
We started this episode with a like, hey, if you're depressed, get help. But if you're blind, just fuck right off.
That's Argento's hashtag.
You know who does? You know who doesn't listen to podcasts, Ben? Huh. The blind.
God. I mean, he gets killed by a dog that can see and hear. You know?
Yeah, we never actually. Are we sure that dog could hear?
Okay,
I looked
that's
at that
never
dog
stated.
and I think it was reading lips.
I love
Anyway, yeah.
Again, the audio and visual elements of the movie. I fucking love.
So great.
I love what's her name? Jessica Harper that plays Susie Bannion.
Mm-hmm.
I think she does so well with conveying so much in her eyes, because she doesn't have a lot of dialogue in the movie, but she has such a great face. She's so expressive, and she's so pretty. I really just enjoy seeing her on screen all the time.
She is a very pretty. Yeah, she actually she reminded me of Styles from In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah,
they both have a similar look.
I can totally see that.
Yeah. She also, it may have just been in an outtake of this movie, but she's real good at making scrambled eggs.
Yo, you can see that on the YouTube, because now...
Yeah.
I just learned this recently. Apparently, Jessica Harper is living her life under the alias The Krabby Cook. She has a YouTube cooking channel, which is something I'm about to start up myself. And she also has a... Oh, dude. Yeah, I'm totally going to start like a cooking channel called Coming In Hot. It's going to be good.
Let's talk more about this off mic.
Maybe we
That
do.
sounds great.
Maybe we
Anyway.
do. So she's got a YouTube channel called The Krabby Cook, and she's got a cookbook and stuff too, apparently. I watched a video of her making a scrambled org, and apparently not only is she all about exposing the secret covens of witches, she's also all about exposing the secrets of adding a little bit of sour cream to a scrambled egg to make it better.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, guys. Look, she knows what she's talking about, okay?
Yeah. So The Krabby Cook. Try to find her on there. So I really enjoy her. I love the movie, really. Like, as far as, like, negatives go, the bat scene is really just so superfluous and pointless in the movie. That definitely could have been cut out. And I don't know, the scene where she goes to like the whatever the witch research laboratory or whatever, where she tells the professor stuff. It seems like that's some exposition that could have been delivered in some kind of different way. That kind of gets into that area of the big story no-no of introducing new characters in the third act of the movie.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah, couldn't she have just like, I mean, this was in the era where she would have gone to a library and looked at some microfiche or something. That would,
see, like something like that would have been a little bit more appropriate. That just seemed kind of like a clunky way to develop that sort of bit of information that she has to get. But I mean, it's fine, but it seems like it could have been done a little bit classier way. But I will watch this movie 8 million more times. It's just so fucking pretty, and it sounds so good. I love the gore and stuff too. It's like you're saying, like, it's not realistic in the least.
No.
Although the
cool.
the fucking heart stab scene is brutal as fuck.
It is. It's so brutal.
I love it. I think it's one of the most gorgeous movies ever made. Not just in horror, but one of the most gorgeous movies ever made, period. You could watch it with it on mute and enjoy it and probably still follow the storyline just fine.
Yeah.
So I would totally watch this many more times. I'd say on a scale of 10, this movie's a 9 out of 10 for me. I really fucking love it.
I can't disagree with you. I would absolutely say this is a 9 out of 10. I think the things that might seem like absolute filmmaking sins to people who haven't seen Argento movies or giallo movies in general, they just fall away, and everything is made A-okay by just these great gore scenes and the color. It all just comes together and makes this amazing movie. So
I would almost
I'd say you're right.
If you're looking to get into some of these Italian horror flicks and stuff like that, you know, if you want to get into something that has some weird dubbing and some dialogue that doesn't really make sense and stuff like that, I would suggest even starting with like Lucio Fulci's Zombie, sometimes known as Zombie.
Yeah, I was gonna say
2.
that's exactly what I would say.
Yeah,
Zombie 2. Yeah,
that's again, it's a very simple story and stuff like that. That's a good kind of watch to get sort of into the mindset of what you're getting into. If this was the first like foreign horror flick you watched, I imagine it would be very bizarre and overwhelming. So if you're new to this, maybe don't start here. I think even Phenomena is a better starting point than this.
Yes. Phenomena is a great starting point for giallo, which is interesting. I mean, the more giallo you watch, the more Phenomena sort of lacks a little. Mm-hmm. But Phenomena it's a good transition for American horror viewers into giallo.
I would agree with that, man. So I love this movie. I'll watch it many more times. Highly recommend it. Now, Steve, I heard that there is going to be a Suspiria remake that is going on here, and you can't see me, but I definitely have my skeptical face on right now.
Ben, let me try to sell you on this remake.
Sell it.
I see why someone would say you can't remake this movie. I said it very strongly when I heard they were remaking Evil Dead.
That's true.
And guess what? I was wrong. Everybody who said that they shouldn't remake the Evil Dead was wrong, because what they did was they didn't remake it. They extended the universe and gave a director with a good vision a chance. Yeah. And what came out of it was an amazing fucking movie.
Yeah, so, I'm with you.
So the Suspiria remake, I am not going to pretend I can pronounce his name completely correctly, but is going to be directed by an Italian feller by the name of Luca Guadagnino, maybe? I don't know.
And I understand he's done some other stuff that was pretty sick, right?
Yeah, he's got a lot of cred. This is a guy who knows what he's doing. The movie will be starring Dakota Johnson of 50 Shades of Grey fame, which is probably not going to really...
is worrisome. So she's playing the Susie Bannion role?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to tell you what.
Do
you want to know who motherfucking should have been playing this part?
Who?
It is the most logical, tonally and aesthetic choice possible.
Okay.
I can't remember her name, but the main chick from the House of the Motherfucking Devil, she should have been Susie Bannion.
Oh my god!
Like, she would have been perfect.
She looks exactly like her almost.
I know. She is a pretty brunette with wavy hair and great big eyes. Like, she's the same.
And she
Why
also
the fuck wasn't she cast?
She also played. I don't know. That's interesting. I would have cast Ilana Glazer, but that would have been a completely different movie.
Who's that?
Ilana Glazer is from Broad City, which is one of the funniest shows on television. So Dakota Johnson, the thing is, it's not actually a remake. It's doing something like the Evil Dead remake, where it is extending on the universe from a different style. It also will have Chloe Moretz, who has made a living off of being in these remakes.
Yeah.
And Tilda Swinton, who...
Big fan.
You know, yeah, she's great. love her.
Is she playing the Frau?
I don't know. Like, yeah, all of this isn't fully defined, but the music for the movie is all being done by Tom York of Radiohead.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was announced recently. So,
hipster appeal plus 10.
Yeah. So I think it might deserve a chance. It's being distributed by Amazon, which means I'm not sure if it's actually coming out in theaters. It's actually probably just going to be Amazon Prime, which means you're not missing out on anything. Like, you're not losing out by watching it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if you already have Amazon Prime and it comes on, like, you might as well give it a chance.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go ahead and give it my full seal of approval, but I think it deserves a shot.
When's it coming out?
There's not a release date yet. They
Okay.
just recently got Tom York to do the music. The movie's completely shot. They've already done all the movie, but now they're just waiting on the music and post-production. So,
wow.
should be soon.
I mean,
I
I hope to God that they nail it. I don't really know. I don't know. This is one of those movies that just makes such a strong statement. I don't really know how you could possibly add more to it or anything like that, but I will definitely give it a chance. So I'm on board to watch it.
Yeah.
So the next episode of the show that we're going to do here is a wonderful horror comedy from the good old Chiodo brothers by the name of Killer Clowns from Motherfucking Outer Space, which is a feel-good
From outer space.
Oh, that jam, dude! That intro song is so fun, man. So that'll be a fun episode to go through. I look forward to doing that with you guys. So be sure to stay tuned for that one next week. In the meantime, Steve, where can these wonderful folks get a hold of us?
Well, you can always email us at deadandlovelypod@gmail.com.
Oh.
Always love getting those emails. You can recommend some movies for us, ask us questions, etc.
Yep.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at deadlovelypod, and we also have a Facebook group, so check us out.
Oh boy, that's fantastic. And I'd like to ask you guys to do us a huge favor and rate and review us on iTunes. Go on iTunes, go to our podcast page, and give us a rating and a review. Use your G-rated language or else they won't post it. That really helps us show up in those search feeds and stuff like that. So, yeah, if you want to do us a favor, please do us a solid and go in there and rate and review this podcast. Just takes a second. It can even just be you saying, I like it, and that's all. And that will count to being a good review for us. So please do that for us. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ben Eller Guitars. Where can they find you, Steve?
At Steven Spratling. That's Steven with a V, the only way to spell it.
PH Stevens can PH fuck off. Well, you guys have been great, and we have been dead and lovely. We'll catch you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.